In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. O Heavenly King, the Comforter, the Spirit of Truth, who are present everywhere and fill us all things, charge your blessings and giver of life, come and abide in us and bless us from every impurity and save our souls, O good one. Glory to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, both now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen. Lord, have mercy. O Lord Jesus Christ, bless us and save us through the grace and prayers of Saint Luke, our Father and benefactor, and of all the saints, always, now, and ever, and unto ages of ages. Please be seated. I will take this off because I'm far away from everyone, so you can hear me better and I can enunciate more clearly. So welcome to our church beautification presentation of our church beautification project. This is something very important, and I'm grateful to all of you for coming to get informed about this, because the following project will beautify and make more spiritual our worship space, our church. And it is a lasting project. You may ask yourselves, how lasting will it be? Well, only think about our Serbian history and history of other Orthodox peoples, but especially our Serbian history. There are many rulers, dynasties from our very long and venerable tradition, which do not exist anymore. But the churches, the frescoes, and what they left behind, those monuments, they are still there. And our church here, some might think that we might move from here. Yes, that is the case. But the current technology gives us an opportunity to actually take all that we create in this beautification project with us wherever we move. So the way we install these frescoes will be such that if we go somewhere else, if we build another church, a larger one, God willing, as our community grows, and we become much more numerous and a greater community, we will need a larger worship space. And when that moment comes, we will simply build another church and take these frescoes and then transpose them to the new space. So this is a lasting project, and thank you for your love for God's church and for your effort to come and to get informed, because this will be for a very, very long time. So I would like to begin by pointing something very important. Let me start. By pointing something very important. At every divine liturgy, we pray this prayer. O Lord our God, save thy people and bless thine inheritance. Preserve the fullness of thy church. Sanctify those who love the beauty of thy house. Glorify them in return by thy divine power, and forsake us not to put our hope in thee. These exact words are repeated twice. At the beginning of the liturgy, this is the prayer of the second antiphon. And at the very end of the liturgy, when we are just about to leave, we are again reminded that those who love the beauty of God's church will be glorified by divine power and will not be forgotten in his kingdom. And also, at one of the very important moments in our divine liturgy, which is the great entrance. We begin the great entrance. That's where the gifts are transferred from the offertory onto the altar table. Very important moment in the liturgy. We begin that with the words, with a prayer for all the founders and benefactors of God's church. And what is very important to remember, founders, yes, exist, but benefactors and founders are all of us who actually invest ourselves into God's church. Founders are not only those who founded this parish some 60 years ago, and actually this is the 60th anniversary, and it is not coincidental that God has given us this opportunity to leave our mark on the history of our community on the 60th anniversary. God made it possible for us that we leave a significant mark for the rest of the history of this parish on this 60th anniversary with this beautification project. Because you see, founders are those who are investing themselves into the church. And a church is not done. We can have a building, but until it is fully frescoed and equipped with everything that is necessary for the services, it is not over. The building project is not over. So all of you who are willing to participate in this beautification project are going to be founders of this church. And you will be prayed for as long as this parish exists. And we pray that it will exist forever. So what is important to remember here is that you are having this opportunity to remain part of the history, an important part of this history for all eternity, in perpetuity of this parish. The general plan for the beautification is very simple. We are going to not use any funds that the church currently has, because we cannot afford that. We, as a parish, do not have any funds for the beautification of this church. However, we are hoping that you will find it in your hearts to help us, to help yourselves, because this is our spiritual home, to beautify this. You know, when we go to our apartments, our flats, our houses, we want to make it a home, make them a home. So what we do is we beautify them, we purchase things to make them more beautiful, more functional, and so on. And this is our spiritual home. And we need to do the exact same thing. We need to make it more beautiful to the glory of God and for the glory of God, and to make it more functional. So we are hoping to raise enough money for this project. And no church funds will be used. The project will be entirely funded by your goodwill donations. And that also determines the timeline of our project. So we do not have a strict timeline. It could last, it could be a matter of months, or it could be a matter of years, many years. We do not know. It will depend on the pace of your donations, or donations of our friends, of the friends of our parish. Because you see, this past year, something extraordinary happened. We that were a small, rather small parish and community here in DC, compared to such communities as Chicago or Milwaukee, where you have tens of thousands of Serbs living there, we are rather small. And we are dispersed over a very large area, geographical area. Our parish serves the entire state of Maryland, entire North Virginia, and parts of Delaware. Of course, Washington, D.C. It goes without saying. So it's a very large geographical area, and Serbs do live there. But it is very difficult for many Serbs who live far away in Delaware, 3 hours away in Maryland, in Ocean City or elsewhere, to come here on a regular basis. But we made our services available to them through streaming. And not only that, people started joining us for our services throughout the world. I had a couple of people from India who emailed me about our services, and were very grateful that we made this possible for them to participate in an Orthodox liturgy and prayer service. All our services were broadcast live on the internet, and people started joining us. So nowadays, our parish is not anymore geographically defined. Our parish, we have parishioners who contribute to our church as far as Milwaukee. We used to contribute to our church, or still contribute, I don't really know. But they send their checks from Milwaukee, from Pittsburgh, from other parts of the United States. And also they send us our prayers which is equally important from throughout the world. And we are grateful to them for that. So we have many friends and parishioners who might be able and willing to help us with this beautification project, which will be, as I said, for the glory of God and for the benefit of our worshiping community. So the success of this fundraising will determine the progress of our beautification project. So there are several principles that are important for this project. We cannot have full screen. We cannot have full screen because our friends who are following us on the internet cannot see. If it's full screen, then it doesn't, slides don't change on the internet. So they change here, but they do not change on the internet. So we will have to keep it this way. I hope you don't mind. It is, you can still see, right? Even if you're far away, you can still see okay. So there are several project principles. Of course, as in every project principle, as in every project, there have to be, decisions have to be made. And one of the things that we wanted really to remove here is this subjectiveness. Since a large part of this beautification project is, it's a matter of art, church art. And there are various artistic styles and periods that we can use. What we wanted to do is remove that subjective part to say, for example, what I like or what you like or what another person likes. It really doesn't matter what we like. Let's see what's best for this parish, to remove that subjectiveness from the decision making. And one of the principles was to have this iconography to be representative of the long and venerable Serbian history and culture. So it's not what I like. It's actually, we are the only Serbian church in the nation's capital. So we need to, everything that we have in our church needs to somehow represent that long and venerable history. And iconography of our church, the frescoes, the icons, and everything has to represent, has to convey that long and venerable history of our religion and culture. And that is why we chose that to be one of the first principles of our iconography. The second one is that we should send to everyone who comes to our church. And since we are the only Serbian Orthodox church in the area, we will have patriarchs, bishops, presidents, ambassadors, people from the public sphere come to our church. They will be joining us for many of the services, God willing, in the years to come. So when they come to our church and when they look around, we should convey to them this message that we are part of that very long and venerable Serbian history. We should show them our Serbian identity because we have something to show and to be proud of. And iconography and everything that we do in our church should reflect that, our Serbian identity, long and venerable. And that is why we thought that perhaps whatever we have in our church should be an amalgamation, so to speak, or collection of representative points and representative moments in the history of Serbian art, religious art. So we thought that our frescoes and icons that we have in our church should be copies of religious art that we find in Studenica, which was built by Saint Simeon, the father of Saint Stefan Nemanja. Then Hilandar, which was built by Saint Simeon and Saint Sava, and Gračanica, Bogorodica Ljeviška in Prizren by King Milutin, and so on. That's like the Nemanja dynasty, Nemanjić, right? And to have icons and frescoes which are revered by art historians throughout the world, to have them here represented in our church. So that's the idea. Those are the project principles, to basically convey a clear message about long and venerable Serbian history and cultural Serbian identity. So what are the plans? We need to do several things. We need to take care of the altar. We need to beautify the altar. It has to be frescoed. We have to change the altar table because our altar in this particular church is rather small. And the altar usually has to be close to 1/4 of the church. Because besides the altar, you have to have altar servers, you have to have other servants in the altar, serving clergy in the altar. So for example, when the bishop comes, we cannot have more than four people serving. 5 with a deacon, maybe 6 if we really want to be tight. And then there is no space for altar service and so on. So plus in the altar, we keep a lot of altar and church service necessities for the church service, such as vestments. We keep icons, all sorts of vessels. They are all kept in the altar. So you need a lot of space. And our current altar is rather small. So we will need to change the altar table. This altar table is very large. It is for large and massive churches. What we need is a smaller altar table, and hopefully something that is closer. If you've seen the altar table in Dečani, Dečani is a large monastery, large church, but they have a rather small altar table, which is how much you need. That's exactly how much space you need. And it is made of stone, it is carved stone, and it is beautiful. So we need to take care of the altar with regards to the altar table and the frescoes. We need to get a new iconostasis. We need to get a throne of the Mother of God, which is, I will show you later what it is. It's basically a structure, wooden structure with a large icon of the Mother of God, which is the direct opposite of on the opposite side of the throne of the bishop, on the northern side, which is this side of the church. And we need to take care of the nave, which is the main part of the church, where you sit when you're in church. That's called the nave. From the Greek word navs, which means boat. The idea is that those who are in the nave, in the boat of the church, are safe from the tempests of the outside world, and Christ is at the helm of this boat, sailing the boat to the kingdom of heaven. So that's why we call this nave. We are safe in the nave. But that main part of the church nave has to be frescoed. So these are the 4 things that we need to take care in the altar, but not necessarily in this order. So we came up with several phases, and what the purpose of this phase is to transform as quickly as possible and as much as possible our worship space. So we thought the first thing that is very important is the fresco of Christ the Pandokrator in the dome. That's basically, you know that we have a dome in our church. And if you go to a traditional ancient Serbian church, you will see, or any Orthodox church, in the dome is Christ himself represented. And I will talk about that later. So that's the first part of our project, because it will transform immediately and in a very significant way our church. And equally important is the iconostasis, which we are hoping to make of solid oak with 8 new icons painted according to the rules of iconography of our church. So that's phase 1B. And the first thing that when you enter a church, the first thing that you see is that iconostasis. Pandokrator above and iconostasis over there. That's what captures your attention. And since we had this new furniture, that was acquired through the generous donation of Opančići, and also we have pevnica that was donated by Aleksandar Dukić and Jelena Tasić and their family. We realized that the quality of work, of woodwork, is very, very high. And we were happy, I hope that you share this sentiment. The quality of the work is very high, and the master wood carver is worthy of our attention and our trust. So we were hoping to make the iconostasis in the same style of solid oak wood. Oak, of course, has very significant meaning for Serbs. Think about Badnjak. Of solid oak wood, just as this church furniture that we have, and to have it instead of that white wall that we have now. So it will be more traditional, and it will rapidly transform the space with these 8 new icons. I will talk about that a little bit later. And then phase 1C is to get, God willing, and through the grace of Mother of God, a copy, an exact copy of the 3-handed icon of the Mother of God, Bogorodica Trojeručica, from Hilandar Monastery. It will be made in Hilandar Monastery by the monks, and by, because perhaps, I'm sure that you all know what I'm talking about. You've seen the icon itself. And the icon has a special silver cover. And that silver cover will be made by using ancient techniques, by master jewelers from Prizren. And we already have a blessing for that from Hilandar, general blessing. Of course, we need to go into details and to talk with the abbot and Father Simeon of Hilandar, but hopefully that will happen soon. And whenever we have enough funds to purchase the icon, to have it commissioned, to have commissioned the icon, then we will do so. And the icon itself will stand in a specially made throne made of carved wood in the same style as the church furniture and the iconostasis, solid oak wood, and it will be standing on this side of the church, on the north side of the church, opposite from the bishop's throne. All right. And then phase 2 is also divided into 3 parts. Phase 2A is completion of the ceiling of the nave, which is very important because it will further have that transform the space. And then phase 2B will be the completion of the altar, including the frescoes and the new altar table. And then 2C is the completion of the north wall. That's this wall on this side, which has the most space for frescoes. And these two might actually switch. We don't really know which will come first, which will be 2B or 2C. That will be determined later. But this is the phase 2, these 3 things. So we are moving now to phase 1A, Pandokrator. So Pandokrator is the fresco of Christ in the dome of the church, and Pandokrator is the Greek word for almighty or all-powerful, the one who rules everything. And the idea is, you know, that Christ is depicted holding a Bible, which is the symbol of teaching, and in his halo, he has 3 letters, 3 Greek letters, Omicron, Omega, and Ni, which means Oon, which is the name for God in the Old Testament. You know, when Moses comes to the burning bush, God sends him to Egypt, and he says, okay, I'll go. Moses says to God, okay, I'll go, but tell me, whom should I tell them sent me? And God said, tell them that, Moses says, what is your name? And he says, my name is On, Eroi mi On, I am On. On means the one who exists forever, all right? And by painting Christ with those three letters, or that word, On, in the halo, we are sending a clear message that Christ himself is forever. God, that is the second person of the Holy Trinity, the one who creates, who exists forever, but at the same time, for our sake, he was born in time as a little baby in Bethlehem to save the human race. So he's duality, divinity and humanity, which are merged into one person of Jesus, is depicted in that fresco. So he's the Almighty God, and at the same time our Savior. He's the God of the Old Testament, the one, when you open the Bible, who creates everything, and the one who is born in time as little baby, Jesus. So that's why he's called Pandokrator, the one who rules everything. So we solicited bids from 4 iconographers. We talked to an iconographer, Bulgarian iconographer, Ognjan Denev, in 2019, but his offer was beyond our financial ability, both then and now. We could not afford him. And then we talked to Filip Subotic, who is becoming increasingly famous on this continent especially. He did several churches and many smaller projects. He did the Church of St. Archangel Michael in South Chicago, in Lansing. He did also the one in Charlotte. Milan, Charlotte is the one that he did, right? Charlotte or Greensboro, which one did he do? One of the two. Greensboro, is it? Yes, one of the two. And so he did many smaller projects and so on, so he's becoming famous. We also asked Violeta Nanova, who is currently working on St. Archangel Michael Church in Akron, Ohio. And we talked to Borislav Živković, who did also many different projects in Serbia, but here he did famously the Church of St. Sava in Houston, and now he's working on St. Nicholas in Stilton, not far away. And once we got bids from all 4 of them, there are several things that we looked into. The first and foremost is the quality of work. We wanted to have high quality work done in our church. But then also, we were looking at the cost. And all of these were important to the point where of disqualification. So if the quality was not good, we immediately stopped looking into that iconographer. And then if the cost was too high, we would move to the next bid and so on. So right now, we are hoping that Borislav Živković will be able to start working on our frescoes. And besides the quality of work, which is extremely high, and the cost, which is the lowest, pretty much, well, yes, it is the lowest of all of these bids, he also lives not far away from our church. He lives about an hour away in Pennsylvania on the border with Maryland. And that means that he will be available to come to our church on a moment's notice for any repairs that we need, at least for the foreseeable time. So that is very important for us. So Borislav Živković is the apparent choice. And then with regards to what kind of Pandokrator composition we were looking for, this is the one that we think will best meet our needs. And this is exactly, of course, this is a photo taken in Bogorodica Ljeviška. It's a 14th century church from 1340s. It was built and frescoed by King Milutin. I mean, he donated funds for the frescoing. And Bogorodica Ljeviška is one of the most famous churches in our tradition. And of course, it's been damaged throughout the years. Unfortunately, one of the first things that gets damaged is Pandokrator, because it's on the ceiling and in the dome, and domes are first to leak water. So it got damaged in history. But what we are hoping to do is to have, of course, this restored and as to have this exact image in our dome, but as if it were new, in the same way when it was in 1340s. So what is important to us is, of course, Christ himself, Pandokrator, with On and Jesus Christos. And these are titles for Jesus Christos, Jesus Christ. And then the 8 rays, which represent the divinity of Christ and the fullness of his divinity, that uncreated light emanating into the world, the uncreated light of his energies emanating into the world. And then the angels between those rays. We were considering another Russian, more modern, that was an early consideration, but then, of course, we should go back to our Serbian roots. So the angel will be in between these rays. So this is what the drawing of the Pandokrator looks like. Of course, it will be restored here. But you see Christ and the angels in between the rays. And they will be painted according to the tradition, using the Byzantine blue color and that palette. Because blue is, in many religions, actually, not only in Christianity, is associated with divinity because of the blue sky and so on. And actually, in the Second Temple Judaism, which is really interesting, which is the tradition actually that Christianity inherited pretty much. Blue was the color of Shekinah. Shekinah is the presence, God's presence in this world. So that's why Byzantines used blue. They used lapis lazuli, which is the so-called Byzantine blue. And in that spectrum, they painted their frescoes. So we're hoping to have our Pandokrator as the Pandokrator is in Bogorodica Ljeviška. But of course, we pay. The next is the phase 1D, and it's our iconostasis. The lighting is very poor here, but this should be oak. Think about oak. This is not gilded. This is not gold. This is oak. This is wood. And think about the same wood as we have in our church and the new furniture. But you can see the amount of detail here, and of course these will be changed according to our needs, the panels now. But the icons here will be also part of that project. And oh, I forgot one thing to say. I'm very pleased to announce that we have already the fresco of Pandokrator has been donated to our church. We have funds for the fresco of the Pandokrator. The family of the late Theodore and Sarah Milkovic donated all the necessary funds for the Pandokrator. So God willing, we will have our Pandokrator by the end of the summer, unless something happens. So it will be installed. The next thing is the iconostasis. There are 2 phases of the iconostasis: the woodwork, the wood carving, and the second phase is also the icons. And I know that I'm pleased also to say that this significant donation there is a significant donation for this, for the iconostasis, which will cover the entire wood carving. It's going to be about $17,000. and it's been donated to our church by one family. They asked to be anonymous, but as Christ said, you cannot hide a city that stands on a hilltop. So through time, it will show. And of course, Christ also said that when we give, we let our right hand not know what the left gave, and vice versa. So may God grant them prosperity and reward them many, many times more. And we are beyond grateful for their donation. So thank God we have enough funds to cover the woodwork of our iconostasis. The next thing is to simply collect enough funds for these 8 items. I will talk about that later. So our master woodcarver is from Serbia. He did the new furniture for our church, and his name is Slavko Tomic, and we will commission him to do in the same quality and the same style the iconostasis. So he's chosen, of course, based on the quality of the work, recommendations, and the price. He has by far the best price. And I spent many, many, many hours trying to find the best possible option for us. So, so this is the model. It will be, of course, much better. Slavko tells me it will be much nicer. But this will be it will be at least as beautiful as this. This iconostasis is the model for our iconostasis here. It will be slightly larger, and I will explain that later. So you can see some of the details. So it will be much larger. Our space is 24 feet and 3 inches. That's the space of our iconostasis. So we will need a lot of panels. We will need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels, plus 1 beam that will connect them all. You see it here? You cannot see it here. You can see this beam right here. So let me just point that beam for our friends. You can see this beam right here. That is important. I will talk about that a little bit later. So there will be about 7 or 8 different panels that we will need to create for this iconostasis. And what you see here is, this is the royal door. These are the main doors of the altar. This is the icon of Christ. This is the icon of the Mother of God. Right here next is the doors, are the deacon's doors. On this side, it should be Saint Archdeacon Stephen, and on this side, can you see it? Yeah. So this is the royal doors. This is the icon of Christ. This is the icon of the Mother of God. This here, on the sides, are the deacon's doors. On this side is Saint Archdeacon Stephen, and on this side is the Holy Archangel Michael. On this side, this large panel, and these 4 panels are called the throne panels, these big ones, the long ones. On this this is the north side of the church. On the north throne panel is the patron of the church, that's Saint Luke. On the south throne panel is Saint John the Baptist. So these throne panels, there are 4 of them. So there are 4 throne icons. There are 2 icons for the deacon's doors and 2 icons for the royal doors. Because you see at the royal doors, we have the icons of the Mother of God and Archangel Gabriel, and they represent the Annunciation. So the entire composition will be about 24 feet and 3 inches long, which is much longer, which is a very, very long iconostasis, and it will have an impact on the size of our icons. What we had to keep in mind is this part, which is circled in red. That's about 17 feet and 2 inches and 3/4. And this is the thing that we can change, because between here and here is that wall that we can put down. We can take down that wall. What we could not do is go all the way to the end of the icon of St. John and St. Luke, because that's where the side rooms begin. The side rooms begin right here, on the north side right here, and the side right here. So this, based on this space, the wood carver will make calculations and tell us exactly the proportions of the icons. And he already did that. Because right now we don't have to keep these proportions that we have here. These proportions were done according to the altar doors that we borrowed from St. Nicholas in Stilton. You see, the iconostasis that we have here, it was borrowed from St. Nicholas in Stilton. They did a new iconostasis and they gave us this. So what we can change and we should change is the proportions to fit our icons to our space. And the iconographer, the wood carver did that for us. So we are moving now to icons. So as I explained, we will need 4 main icons, or the throne icons, for those large panels. The icon of Christ, the icon of the Mother of God, St. John the Baptist, and St. Luke. And according to our wood carver, the icons will be 144 by 58 centimeters. That's about almost 4.5 feet by almost 2 feet. It's rather sizable icon. So 144, it's almost 1.5 meters. That's large. By 58 centimeters, that's almost like 60 centimeters. That's rather large. So those will be the 4 main icons. And then the 2 icons for the side altar doors will be Archdeacon Stephen and Holy Archangel Michael. These will be slightly smaller to fit the doors. And each of these will be 105 by 54 centimeters. And then the royal doors, the Annunciation, that is the Mother of God and Holy Archangel Gabriel, will be 95 by 42 centimeters. That will be on both sides of the royal doors. So we had several artists who we contacted for their bids. We had Minic, who is very famous. He's in Belgrade. His atelier is, I personally actually bought all of my icons, my house icons, from him. So when I was getting my icons, I was looking for quality. I was not looking so much for price at that time, but that was my personal sort of choice. I do realize that this is not my project, and actually all the monies that we are collecting are the monies of the church. So that's why I wanted to be extra frugal, extra careful with money. But I still contacted him because of the quality of his work, and I was very pleased with the quality of his work. And then we also, of course, asked Borislav, who is going to do with our choice for the frescoes, to tell us what he is asking for these icons, for these 8 icons. And also, our wood carver recommended Zoran Milenkovic, who is in Kragujevac, an iconographer. I did not know of him, but in the meantime, I checked his work, his credentials, and I asked around. I talked to some of my colleagues, and he comes highly recommended. and he has some additional advantages. He has the best price, and there is also that factor of convenience, because you see he works very closely with the wood carver, and they worked on many, many different projects together. So he did about 30 or, Milan, do you remember the number? It's 30 or 40 different iconostases that he said in his CV that they did. It's a very, it's in that range. It's a very, very impressive resume that he sent us. So he comes highly recommended by word of mouth. He has a very sort of, and plus his icons are of extreme quality, very, very good quality. And I will show you some of his examples. So we are still waiting to hear from Borislav, and we will ask around a little bit more and see what the best option is. But what we are looking for in the icons, and what everyone should be looking for, is quality, price, and also convenience. One thing that is very difficult, and we have to keep in mind, is the fact that the iconographer cannot make any mistakes with regards to the size of the icons. And because they will have to be installed in the existing framework of the iconostasis. So maybe it would be best for us if we actually talked to Zoran to make the icons, because he lives, it's a few miles away from our wood carver, and they work together closely. So it is a matter of convenience and security, surety. So these are the icons that he did. You can see it's very, very good quality. He uses, one thing that impressed me greatly is when I asked him for the bid, he sent me, he talked to me about the technique for preparing the wood panels for the icons, not only the images and so on. He talked to me about the technique for preparing the wood panels. And he said that he's preparing those wood panels according to the ancient traditions of Dionysius of Furna. Well, let me just tell you this. I am not an expert in church art, so I leave that to experts. But I do know about Dionysius of Furna because I'm a student of history. And he explained then to me how he prepares those wood panels for the icons. And that's very important. You don't want your icons to be made on fresh wood or wood that is moist. There is high level of moisture in the wood, because through time it will sort of start getting apart, and the cracks will start showing and so on. So what he told me is that his wood panels are made of linden wood, linden, right? Linden wood, and the moisture content is between 8 and 12%. And then he prepares those wood panels by applying an ancient technique. It's a special gauze, and he glues 12 layers of that gauze to the panel by using special rabbit glue, like they use for instruments, for building instruments, rabbit glue with ground marble. And that's that white surface on which they paint. And when he paints, he uses earth pigments. It's not colors or acrylic or anything. He uses pigments which are completely natural, and he binds the pigments with a mixture of egg yolk and vinegar. I'm tired. So vinegar and egg yolk. And that's how he binds the pigments. And that's how he paints. So it's a very ancient technique. And I know it's what he told me is right. That made an impression on me. So that's why I'm bringing him up. as a viable option. So these are the icons that he does. This is one of the iconostases that he did. And then you can see Christ up close. This is an iconostasis, another iconostasis that they did, Slavko and Zoran, for a Romanian church across the border. This is Archangel Gabriel, again, Archangel. So this is on the royal doors, and this is on the, sorry, this is on the royal doors, and this is on one of the side doors, so-called deacons' doors. And you can see across. So what makes him even more interesting is that Slavko does not know exactly, he didn't have time, the woodcarver, to design the iconostasis for us. We know what it will look like in very general, broad terms, but he will have to work with us on some details. So Zoran gave us the price for his work, and he said it's going to be for the entire iconostasis, no matter how many icons, how many more icons, smaller, like these medallions that you see here. Can you see these medallions? If, for example, Slavko decides to put cross on the top of our iconostasis with the medallions, and we decide it's the best option, he will do that, and that's all including the price that he gave us. And that price that he already gave us is much, much less. It's about 1,100 euros less than what Minic is asking for only those 8 icons. So the quality is very high, the price is the best, and there is an added level of convenience because he works with the woodcarver, and we know that he will produce icons that will definitely fit very well into the existing framework of the iconostasis. All right, we're moving to the next phase, which is the throne of the Mother of God. What you see here is the throne of Proročica, and this is an older version of the icon that Hilandar did. It was made some 10, 12 years ago, and this is the icon that is installed in Monastery New Gračanica, which is the see of the Diocese of Midwest and New Gračanica, Midwestern Diocese. And I'm showing you this, not because of the icon, because our icon will be, this is not a faithful copy of Proročica. It's not. I'm showing you because of the throne, so that you get an idea what the throne looks like. The stand on which houses the icon. And this is called the throne of the Mother of God. The icon is sort of different. So this is the exact copy of Proročica, and ours will be like this. It's a very large icon, and it is made in silver and then gilded with several thousand of, in the original icon, these are precious stones. But in our copy, they will be crystals, of course. And the entire icon is made in Hilandar Monastery, and God willing, we will go there whenever that is, hopefully sooner rather than later. We'll go there to transfer the icon from Hilandar. Of course, we will go as a pilgrimage. Whoever wants can join us on that pilgrimage. Men only, unfortunately. Women cannot enter the holy mountain. But everyone can wait for the icon here. So whoever is willing will go to get the icon and transfer it from Hilandar here. It will be blessed, hopefully there. There are some details that need to be worked out. Whether we want to bless it here or there, there is a... But what I want to tell you is this. This icon was given to the church, Serbian church in Birmingham in United Kingdom. And one of my friends is a priest there. And he told me that they got this icon about 2 years ago. And since the icon came, people were coming there to pray to the Mother of God before this icon. It's a miraculous icon, miracle working icon, the original in Hilandar. But the grace of the original icon is also here, and there were several healings in front of this icon. And he testified to me that there were several healings in front of this copy of the Mother of God. And he said to me, if you can, if your parish can, it's going to be a huge blessing for you to get it. get it. You will see a huge difference. So this is what we were hoping we could get for our parish as a blessing, as an eternal blessing for our community, so that we can all pray and find comfort in front of this icon. It's a very large icon. To give you just an example, this is Metropolitan Nikitas, Archbishop Nikitas, praying before the icon, and you can see how large it is. He is about he's about my size, 6'1". And you can see how large the icon is. And this is another sort of, this is another example of how large it is. You can see it's very large. It's an exact copy of the icon in Hilandar. And those of you who had the blessing and chance to go to Hilandar know how large it is. So we will need to house this icon, to build large enough throne for the icon of this size. And then we're going to, I'm going to present phase 2A. I'm presenting everything that we know at this point. So this is what Borislav sent us. This is his proposal for our ceiling, for the ceiling of our church. And what you see here is, this is the altar, and this is the nave. This is where you sit. This is the rest of the church. And the ceiling will be this. We have the Pandokrator. This is the original copy that we were looking for, but this is Russian. And I consulted Professor Ljubica Popovic, who was professor, and she's an expert in Byzantine and religious art. And she tells me this is not Serbian tradition, this is Russian and modern. And this is why we better, plus this particular version is way too big, way too large for the size of our dome. This is for much larger domes where you can have, there are 3 layers. You can't see it here, but there are 3 layers of rays, and then angels are within the rays, not around the rays, but within the rays. So that makes the rays very large. You have to be able to paint the angels within the rays. And then the icon, if we went with this design, the icon of Christ would be rather small. We don't want that. Christ has to be the main part of the dome. So that's why we spent 2 days talking about this, and we went one day through her books. She has many books on religious art, especially Serbian medieval religious art, and that's why we thought the best option would be Bogorodica Ljeviška, the one that I showed you before. But this is the Pandokrator, and Pandokrator will be here in the dome, and then the 4 evangelists will be around the dome, on the ceiling, not within the dome, but around the dome, on the ceiling. And then these 3 medallions from the life of Christ will be painted there in between those 4 chandeliers that we have in church. So, and the rest, we don't want the ceiling to be too busy. The rest will be, you can see heavens like the sky with stars. And we are hoping that Borislav, this is still in very early stages, because we do not have money. The only thing that we have money for is the Pandokrator at the moment. But we're hoping that sometime in the future, when we start seriously considering the rest of the ceiling, that we could come with some design to show movement in the sky, in the heavens. So Professor Ljubica was telling me that there is such a possibility. I did not understand fully how but she said that by playing on the shades of the color blue, you could have some sort of movement and depth on the ceiling. But I will have to rely on her expertise. We will have to rely on her expertise more about this. But the important thing, I think, to us is that it is traditional, according to the rules of the Orthodox Church. and to showcase our long and venerable Serbian tradition. So as long as that is the case, I think we will be fine. What I do not like personally, and I hope that you will understand what I'm saying, is this frame. It looks like, to me, it looks like, you know, those 19th century plates, and right, those old-fashioned plates, that they had that kind of border. But we talked to Borislav, and he's willing to help us change that. And instead of this gold, we could probably do something more traditional. I have something that I would like to show you later in a few minutes. So these are the frescoes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the ceiling, plus the sky. So instead of that gold border, I was thinking maybe this border, which is from Žiča. Žiča was built by the brother, by the older brother of Saint Sava. It's the royal monastery in Serbia. Our kings were crowned. All Nemanjići were crowned in Žiča. And this is one of the borders that they have in Žiča, with a double-headed eagle and the cross. And Professor Ljubica and we found this in one of her books. We couldn't find a colored version, but I did find it on the internet, and I want to show it with you for the first time. So this is what it looks like. The red in the eagle is cinnamon red. That's the royal red. In Serbian, cinober. And then the cross. So our double-headed Serbian symbol, eagle, with the cross of orthodoxy, is perhaps the way to go about this. And then you find this. Do you see this motif here? Do you see this motif here? That's from our Chile, Serbian motifs. It's actually medieval. So it makes sense actually to have that as the border for our frescoes. But that's the current idea. So I actually spoke for a very long time, and I apologize for that. But I would like to draw your attention, since we mentioned all these medieval Serbian monasteries and churches. All of those were built by real people, and they did not just sort of happen. People invested themselves and wanted to leave a mark, a lasting mark of their existence on this earth. We live for a fairly short period of time. We live a few decades, some live a little bit longer, so some live shorter. But we all want to leave some kind of a seal of our existence here beyond our time. And this is an opportunity for all of us to build ourselves into this church. Because long after our names will not be remembered anymore by our descendants, you know, we can hope that our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and maybe their children will also remember our names. But 6, 7 generations from now, we will not be remembered. But if we build ourselves through ktitorstvo into the church, we will be remembered by God. And every time when the liturgy is served in our church, the priest, when he says, he might not remember us by name, but every time that he says, sanctify those who love the beauty of thy church, and when he comes out to pray for the founders and benefactors of this church, our souls will rejoice at that in all eternity. And that is why church beautification is equal to ktitorstvo, because we have a unique opportunity to build ourselves in something that does not end, that will be there forever, because God never forgets. And a church, we have to keep in mind that the church is not finished until it is beautified with frescoes and equipped with all necessities for the proper conduct of the services. And that this project that we have, that our generation is lucky to have. Many people in Serbia do not have that opportunity to build themselves into a church. It's a legacy that our generation will leave to posterity. And we are hoping that you will find it in your heart to support this beautification project in addition to your already generous support of our church. So this beautification project has to be in addition to our regular support of the church. We can't really, do this beautification project and then lose the church and the property that we have. It has to be in addition. So that's why we know that many of you are actually giving already the most you can. But that's why we're not putting a timeline to this project. And when you can, if you can donate towards this. And build yourselves into this church. So we have this opportunity to become part of something that is lasting, that never ends. And I personally, I'm grateful to God for that opportunity, because I was always looking at those ancient medieval churches and monasteries, and I was wondering at the amount of love for God and dedication to church and to the community, how those people were lucky to be able to build themselves into that church. When you go to Hilanda, I don't have that photo here. When you see the original throne of the Mother of God of three hands, Trojica, there are people who actually, they could not build themselves anymore into the church or Hilanda. It was built centuries ago. But they wanted to leave a lasting sort of memory, or lasting, something that will last, as a sign of gratitude, or as a sign of just their existence. And they would actually send images of themselves made in silver or gold to be hanged by that church, because they could not build themselves into that. It was done, it was over. Other people built it, other people finished the church. But they wanted to do something. And we have that opportunity to be part of that building of the church, of the completion of the church. And that is a blessing for us. So thank you for your attention, and I hope that you will find it in your hearts to support this project. God bless you. Are there any questions? I'll be quite happy to answer any questions that you have. It's important that everyone understands, and of course your input is very, very highly valued and most welcome. Yes, Mia. In the donation and all the costing of the icons and everything else, are we looking at what the cost of the shipping will be and how that will impact? Yes, that's a good question. We will. What we know now is that the iconostasis, the woodwork, costs about $17,000, and then we know that the frescoes will cost us $8,000. The icons for the iconostasis will cost us another $8,000, and then whatever the shipping is. Now, if we want to keep that beam that connects all the panels of the iconostasis in one part, as one long beam of 24 feet and 3 inches, sorry, 24 feet and 3 inches, then we would need to probably rent a large container. Because containers, Mark Rashevich told me, they come in different sizes, and the sizes they're smaller, but one size is 20, and then the next size is 40 feet. So yeah, we would need to rent one of those. So it would make sense, actually, if we can, because this will take some time even once we place the order for the iconostasis, it will take time to make it. It makes sense that if we can, to get the money for the icons, to do it at the same time. The iconostasis, the icons, and the throne of the Mother of God, because we don't want to pay special shipping just for the throne. If we have to rent a container, it makes sense then to get everything at the same time, instead of paying shipping several times, because it's always a couple of thousands of dollars. You lose money there. Yes.
What is the estimate for one seat for the throne of the Mother of God?
That's a good question. We don't know yet. I actually, what we do know is that the throne itself, the throne itself will have the woodwork. Will have to be. I need to get the exact measurements for the icon from Father Simeon. And we started because it's Lent, and in Hilandar they don't, Hilandar, Mount Athos is like 16th century, so they don't we easy access to phones, and when he keeps me, I'm not available. When I call him, we miss each other's calls, so it's very hard to get hold of him. But hopefully after Easter, I will be able to get the exact measurements for the icon, and then I can talk to Slavko to give me an estimate for the woodwork. But I am hoping it will not be more than $5,000. But I think we already have a donor for that.
And the icon itself, Tveručica?
Oh, Tveručica. Tveručica will be much more expensive. It will be about $40,000. But we have 1/4 pledged over. We have 10,000 pledged. So it will probably take us some time to collect all. But it's a great blessing. It is a commitment. Yes, it is a commitment. And this is something that will be here forever. Unless there is some kind of an act of God, I think it will be here forever. Wherever this church goes, it will be here forever. The iconostasis, the throne, the frescoes, hopefully, wherever we go, we will take them with us.
And the beam is part of the iconostasis, right?
The beam is part of the iconostasis, and we are hoping that we will be able to keep it in one long beam, because there is a possibility we can cut it into 3 parts. That's what Slavko told me, if we have to ship it that way. But it's much nicer if it's one long beam of 24 feet and 3 inches.
You mentioned you wanted to move the wall where the beacons or our royal doors, you wanted to move that part, but you said that's 17 feet. So, and then those 2 walls that the rooms in the altar are, you're not moving it. So why is the beam 24 feet? If just part of the wall is kind of moved towards the.
Right. Good question. So what Jelena is talking here, we would actually have to go to the church to show you exactly what I'll try to explain the best of my ability. There are 2 options. When the iconostasis comes, we could gain another yard or so, 3 feet, by moving the iconostasis to the end of that step. You know that step right in front of the altar? We could move it to the end of that step, and then at one point the step starts going down, because that's like access thing, building code and so on. We have to keep that. We can't change it without all sorts of problems, Pandora's box. The problem would be then, what do we do with the rest of the church, with what happens behind the iconostasis? And then we would have to build the wall, and it would cost us another several $1,000s we don't have. So instead of moving, of course, we will try it and see when the iconostasis comes, because we can. The iconostasis will be able. It's hard to explain. I have to try to explain it. The iconostasis, those 24 feet and 3 inches, we can still install that if we want to at the end of the step. But we are losing, we're gaining altar space, another yard. But we are losing space of the nave, and we are changing the proportions of the nave. Then your iconostasis will be right underneath the dome. And we would need to move those lights outside, and we would need to build the wall behind the iconostasis to extend the wall of those rooms, both side rooms, forward. And we would lose the soleas, that step, that yard. We would lose that. We can't really, or if we build another step in front of that, we would lose part of the nave, and your soleas would be right underneath the dome. So the proportions of the church will completely change. Will be completely changed. So that is definitely an option. We can think about that. But perhaps, given that we will have to do a lot of work and spend a lot of money to make everything right, perhaps it would be best if we kept the iconostasis where it is, and then just extend the 2 panels of Saint Luke and Saint John over the wall. So what we would actually pull down is just that middle wall in between the 2 rooms. And above St. John and St. Luke, there will still be wall. And we could paint there 2 angels, for example, or some other composition. But in the middle will be just the iconostasis and completely open above. It's really complicated. I don't know if I explain this to your satisfaction, but I'll be happy to show in church, because the question is, that yard, is it worth it? Those 3 feet, is it really worth it, all that work and all that money? I mean, I personally would love to have more space in the altar. I can't really properly walk around the altar table and sense the church. So, plus, there is one point, where the cross is. Underneath the cross, there should be a seat. It's called the gornje mesto in Serbian. Like in Greek, it's synthronon, and in English, we use that word synthronon. It represents Christ and the angels, the apostles, who sit with Christ. And at one point of the liturgy, the serving clergy, like the bishop or the priest, when we stand underneath that cross, during the reading of the epistle, we should sit on a chair. Right now, there is no way that we can fit a chair over there. But when you have enough space, there should be a chair. And at that point, the serving clergy represent Christ himself, symbolically. So gaining more space would make sense. But at this, high expense, at that much expense, I don't know. Maybe it's something that we can do much better when our community grows much larger and we build a church. Then we can do it properly and build enough space to the altar.
Okay, with a smaller altar table, you gain some of the.
Yes. That was the idea. We would not, because it financially it makes sense to downsize the altar table and keep the iconostasis where it is, and instead of actually extending those 3 feet and then building everything else, all the supporting walls. Financially, it makes sense. Oh, I'm sorry. This is so complicated. Another, yes.
Just logistically, can you tell us I mean, I know, but can you explain to everybody that there's new fund just for that?
Yes. I'm grateful to our trusteeship who kindly agreed to open a new fund that will be completely dedicated just for the beautification project. And the funds cannot be used for anything else but for this beautification project. And hopefully in the next couple of days, we will have on our donation page online, we'll have a special line for that. And you can donate specifically for the beautification of our church. And also, trusteeship kindly agreed that all the funds that are donated in the central icon, there is an opening on the top of the central icon, will go towards the beautification of the church. Sorry, I mean, yes.
And you touched on, but I can't say the importance of it.
Can you come here so that people who are online can hear you as well? No, go ahead.
I just want to remind or clarify what Father had said earlier about, we're not using any of the funds that we currently have in the church funds for the beautification project. And likewise, we're in the process of stabilizing and, meeting our obligations and, paying the mortgage and the utilities and everything else, and not really worrying, even in spite of what we've gone through this last year with COVID. But we ask everyone, please don't stop donating to the church in the manner in which they're currently doing in order to give more to the beautification fund. That's why the beautification fund is extended for over a longer period of time until we acquire those funds on their own. We're not going to take anything from the church, but likewise, the donors, we ask not to take money away from where they're contributing and giving and moving it over there, because we still have to pay them the mortgage and the utilities and everything. And if you look at us supporting the facility, we're actually protecting our sanctuary and all of the frescoes and the iconostас and everything inside our church, and protecting it so that we can pay those bills. We can have so that the temperature the climate is controlled and nothing really is, starts to decompose over time, and it's always protected, that the roof has no leaks and that we're functioning properly. So it's a delicate balance, but that's why we're very specific in saying this will be a long-term project and going forward. It'll take a little longer to build up perhaps, or, we've been blessed so much in this parish over the years, and we've done so much in starting with nothing. And our people have been absolutely wonderful, and we hope that, that they continue that, and we want to, keep that going. So I just wanted to clarify that so that we know where we're headed. Thank you.
Thank you, Milan. Yes, so I would like also to use this opportunity to thank all of you, because I know that you have, in the past years and decades, without you, we wouldn't be able, actually, without your support and generosity, we wouldn't be able to even think about this beautification project. So many of you have already built yourself into this and continue to build yourself into this church. And may God bless you for that. So if there are any other questions or anything that you would like to suggest, please don't hesitate to talk to me. I will be happy to discuss this further and to answer any and all questions that you might have to the best of my ability. God bless you.